Good morning to all our Jobs for Michigan's graduates, family, and supporters joining us for Coffee with a Purpose, Mental Health Awareness and the Youth Perspective. My name is Kristen Harrington, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Executive Director for Youth Solutions, the nonprofit inspiring and connecting youth to achieve a future beyond imagination. Today, I'm honored to be joined by our co-moderator, Dr. Lynn Todman, Vice President of Health Equity at Spectrum Health Lakeland, and by our JMG panelists, Amari McKinney, Hannah Wyman, Chelsea Smith, and Christian Dunn. As always, they are the true stars of this coffee hour, and we will be hearing from each of them momentarily. Recognizing the importance of May as Mental Health Awareness Month, now more than ever, our young people need to find ways to stay connected. No one should feel alone or without the information, support, and help they need to be mentally well. With our panel, we'll break down the stigma associated with mental health and broaden awareness of the growing challenges in the lives of young people, particularly in our post-COVID reality. According to the National Alliance on Mental Health or Mental Illness, 50% of all lifetime mental illnesses develop by age 14. And 75% developed by age 24. Earlier this year, the C.S. Mott Children's Hospital National Poll on Children's Health found that 46% of parents say they have noticed a new or worsening mental health condition in their teen since the start of the pandemic. We'll discuss the value of connecting in safe ways, prioritizing mental health, and acknowledging that it's okay to not be okay. I'm delighted to welcome Dr. Lynn Todman from Spectrum Health Lakeland to lead this important discussion. Dr. Todman has been a keynote speaker, a panelist, and a moderator at conferences throughout the US, Canada, and Europe on topics including social exclusion, the social determinants of mental health impact assessment, and health equity, as well as social problems such as poverty, unemployment, food insecurity, incarceration, violence, and homelessness. Her vast knowledge and experience will add tremendous value to this morning's conversation. So welcome, Dr. Todman. It's really great to have you here with us today.
Thank you, Kristen. It's great to be here and to have this opportunity to engage young people in a discussion about mental health. And doing this by sharing their experiences and challenges, we can begin to break through the stigma and talk about the support needed to help young people face these challenges. With that said, I'd like to introduce our esteemed JMG panelists, Amari McKinney, JMG 2021 Youth of the Year and a graduating senior from the Bridge Academy in Benton Harbor, Hannah Wyman, who's the chairperson of Youth Solutions, Youth Advisory Council, and JMG Career Associate President through the West Michigan Works, Muskegon County. Chelsea Smith, a freshman from the JMG program at the Odyssey High School, run by the Institute for Excellence in Education and Great Lakes Bay Michigan Works. And Kristen Dunn, also of the Youth Solutions Advisory Council from the JMG program at JST Michigan Works. Thank you all for being here. We have more than 160 attendees joining us today who are eager to listen and learn from you, and we appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks so much, Dr. Todman, and wow, to over 160 people joining today. Thank you all. I'm so grateful that you took the time to join for this important discussion. To our audience members who wish to ask a question of our panelists, please use the chat function because we'll be monitoring throughout the session, and we have reserved time at the end to ask audience questions. So now, with housekeeping aside and coffee freshly brewed, let's get started. First, I'll ask each of our panelists to introduce themselves. Amari, we'll start with you. The famous line of 2020 and now 21. You're on mute, Amari, so. Hey, Amari, make sure to unmute and then go ahead and start over. Thank you.
My name is Amari McKinney. I'm a graduate from Bridge Academy in Benton Harbor, and I've been with JMG for about 1.5 years so far.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Amari. Hannah?
Hello, everyone. My name is Hannah. I'm 26, our West Michigan Works Muskegon JMG president and chair of our Youth Advisory Council.
Thanks, Hannah. Chelsea?
Hello, I'm Chelsea. I am a freshman at my school, and I was introduced to the JMG program by my teacher, Terry. And I've been really interested in it since then, and like getting this experience is just really great for me to have. So I'm thankful for that.
Thank you, Chelsea. And last but not least, Christian.
Hi, my name is Christian Dunn. I am from the GST Michigan Works. I am 19 and also on the Youth Advisory Council.
Yes, you said the issue of the year. Thank you all for introducing yourselves. And as you know, the topic for today's coffee session is mental health awareness, the youth perspective. Our outstanding panelists all have personal experiences and stories to share to help us better understand the obstacles that young people face when dealing with mental health challenges. Their stories will help overcome stigma associated with mental health, mental illness, and help us find ways to encourage young people to talk, to reach out, and to realize that it's okay not to be okay. So to begin, I'd like to ask the whole panel this question: why don't young people who are suffering with their mental health ask for support? Christian, let's begin with you.
I think that it is because it's something uncomfortable to talk about. I think that we need to talk about it from an early age, and people are just nervous to have something different or something to keep inside.
Thank you, Christian. Chelsea, can you answer that question for us?
I definitely agree with Christian as well. It's like an uncomfortable thing that not a lot of people like to talk about. I also think a lot of kids don't want to talk about it in fear of being judged about their problems, being told things like, like that's not a big enough problem, or you're crazy, or, like you don't have a bad life. Like, what are you talking about? And I think the problem with that is that we need to start educating people on it doesn't matter, what it takes to break a person. It matters that the person there is broken. And I think that we need to kind of take that stigma away from people, of breaking down people's problems on why they're upset or why are they going through this bad time in their life. And I think that's a main problem that happens, and that's a big reason why kids don't share, what they're going through with any person, really.
Thank you, Chelsea. Hannah?
Yeah, there's just such a huge stigma surrounding mental health. That people who struggle with mental health are lazy or not capable of doing normal tasks, which is so far from the truth. Like, we are definitely capable of doing those things. It's just harder for us to do them. But yeah, we're so capable of so many things, and we need to really fight the stigma and let people know that just because we have these struggles doesn't mean that we can't be normal people.
Thank you, Hannah. Amari?
I'd have to say what she said before, the fear of being judged, and also the fact that some people might believe that other people just won't understand, like from their perspective. Like, I try to always tell myself that people can only see things from their perspective, and I just see how people work and how they say and do things, and how they go about different things, and how they react to certain people in certain situations. And it just really made me look like it just really, like, I can't really explain it. It's just something like mental health. when people feel like there's nobody around that actually cares, they tend to stay to themselves and they tend to hermit. And I can say from my perspective, it really does seem like nobody cares sometimes, or that they just wouldn't understand. Like they would never be able to understand.
Thank you, Amari. Thank you all for responding to that question. Christian, for you, you've had experience growing up in an environment where you felt that you couldn't get the support or help that you needed. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So growing up, I was told that men specifically were supposed to be strong, that we weren't supposed to show emotions outside of in private. And I think that it's okay to not be okay. Men need to show emotions. I think that we shouldn't be keeping all of the hurt and everything that we're experiencing inside. And I believe we need to talk to someone and try our best to understand each other.
And Christian, to others who might find them in a situation that was like yours or similar environment, what do you think can be done to ensure that they feel comfortable getting the help that they need?
I think that we need to find other people who are experiencing the same thing, and we need to have a conversation and just be there for each other and start a support group and stay in contact and make sure everyone's doing okay and staying well.
Thank you, Christian. Hannah, I'd like to ask you, from your experience, what are some of the warning signs, both in yourself and others, that indicated that you needed help or that help is needed?
Yeah, so being tired all the time, isolating yourself from friends and family, having no interest in your passions, and not progressing towards your goals.
Mm, mm. And if you notice signs, some of these signs, is there a way to approach the subject matter with a friend or family member that you think might need help?
Yes, a great way to approach a mental health discussion is to take the person away from everyone else and to start using yourself like as an example, such as I have this thing and I'm getting help for it and it's helped so much, but I just wanted to let you know I'm here and I notice these things going on with you. So if you'd like to talk about it with me, you can, and if not, here are some resources.
Great, thank you, Hannah, for that. Chelsea, you had an experience with your sister who was in the hospital one summer, and that experience opened your eyes to the types of mental health support that is needed. Can you tell us a bit about your experience?
Yes. So when my sister was in the hospital, she developed a lot of depression from what she was going through. She was very down. So the hospital had a counselor come in to talk to her, which I thought was an amazing idea. But when she came in there to talk to her, it was almost like she wasn't focusing on the right things for her. And it was showing me that, if there were more counselors and more people in this field that could come and help kids in the situation that my sister was in, it'd be so much easier for them to all get help, because not everybody has the same style of counselor. There's a really big spectrum of counselors that people can have. And that one really wasn't the right fit for my sister. So I saw that as kind of like an opportunity to be like, hey, when I grow up, I want to be one of those people that can maybe help a kid that isn't getting the help they need. Not to say that that counselor wasn't a good counselor, but she wasn't the right fit, obviously, for her. And I think we need a lot of help in that field, especially like health with kids getting sick. And there's just so much things that these kids go through, not just the kids, their families too. My family suffered from a lot of trauma from what happened and how we saw a family member in that position. So I feel like it's really needed to get that help out there, because I feel like it's not talked about enough, and there isn't enough people, helping with that.
Thank you, Chelsea. And what do you think adults need to understand about what young people need? Chelsea?
I think that what they need to kind of understand a little bit. I'm sorry, someone is leaf blowing outside the school if you hear that noise. But I think honestly, it's almost as simple as be there for them. Don't judge them. Don't make them feel uncomfortable. As Hannah said, and when you're approaching somebody who is having a problem, try to maybe share something about yourself to make them feel comfortable, to make them feel like it's a safe place. And I just think that when it comes to mental health, we need to take all judgment, all of those feelings away, because that's not the point. We kind of have to separate ourselves and our opinions about things kind of away from the fact that this person needs help. Let's give them help. And even if I think, their problem is small, or if I think, what they're going through just isn't a big deal, that doesn't matter, because this person is in a great deal of pain and we have to fix it.
Thank you, Chelsea, for that advice. Christian, youth are so technologically savvy these days. Is there a way to use technology to engage youth in talking about or seeking help for mental health issues?
Yes, there are. There are a lot of apps that can help with mental health. There's a great app. It's called TaskHuman. TaskHuman is a self-care app and personal care app where you can talk one-on-one with a specialist, and you can learn about keeping your body pure, learning different forms of exercise, and educating yourself on how to be your best self possible.
Wow. I hope you make that information available to everybody so they can share it with others. But then what about other panelists? Any other apps that you guys use or are aware of that are useful?
Well, I personally use Facebook to communicate schedules with my therapist. I also use it to call friends and family when I might be feeling lonely. I know others use coloring apps or meditation apps that have said it's immensely helped them.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. There are lots of resources out there now, more and more. Amari, did you want to contribute to that?
Pass. No, thank you.
All right. What about how technology might contribute to the problem of mental health challenges like social media, cyberbullying, constant access to the news cycle? Amari has something to say about that.
And say being on Facebook, and if you've heard of the app TikTok, for Facebook, I can say that, oh my gosh, it really just throws out an image that people should have, or they feel like they should have. Like, I see how people, show off different things and, talk about other people. And, that's what's going on with them, behind the scenes. And it's just so funny to me, because see people just being quick to judge somebody online. Like, I see people, they get random posts made about them just to make fun of them. And, everybody will join in just to gang up on that one person just to get a laugh. And it really just makes me feel some type of way sometimes, because it's nothing we can do about it. Like, the parents can't always come on, on Facebook and stand up for the child. So I'm not sure. And I'm not sure what I'm really getting at, but I'm just saying, like, the way people do on social media sometimes and just treat others, like, it makes people just not even want to be there, or the whole app to not even be there. But
You're making your point is very clear. Don't worry, you're coming across exactly how you intend to. We
how people
understand.
throw out an image and people just feel like they need to be that, they need to have this and that car, dress like this, post this picture every once in a while. And I'm thinking, like, it's not even that. Like, social media is a whole different reality. And I feel like people should realize that, like, just really speak up on how people do on social media, and how it affects people and, you know, offline.
Yeah, I agree. Hannah, do you have some thoughts about that?
Yes, very beautifully said, Amari. Social media, as anything else, has its pros and cons. If you're on social media and you're seeing unrealistic body images or seeing depressing posts on Facebook that are simply just complaining about their life, or TikTok negatively talking about men, etc., I've seen so much hate online. So I suggest taking a break until your mental battery is full and you're aware that a lot of social media is fake. So use that time to take care of yourself and by doing things that actually bring you joy.
Thank you, Hannah.
Wow, I just, you all inspire me so much, and these conversations are just so hugely valuable. I heard each of you talk about judgment and avoiding judgment, and Chelsea, your statement, it doesn't matter what it takes to break a person, it matters that the person is broken. It was just so profound. So thank you. Wow. Hannah, you wrote an opinion article that was published on the 74million.org website rather recently, and the piece was part of Dear Adult Leaders, Listen to Youth, a series produced in collaboration with America's Promise Alliance to elevate student voices during the pandemic. In this series, students wrote open letters to adult leaders and policymakers about their experiences and how, from their perspectives, the American education system should adapt. Your letter focused on the issue of supporting students' mental well-being, particularly through the COVID pandemic. Hannah, in the letter you spoke of your own experiences and your suggestion that every school offer an informative mental health class. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I want to sincerely thank everyone for being here today to hear us speak. Mental health is such an important topic, not just to me, but in general. So I will do my absolute best to explain its importance with the time I have with you today. A quote I came up with recently, if you invest in your mental health, you will have infinite wealth, has proven to be true with the experiences and overcomings I've had with my own mental and physical struggles. Not only has going to therapy and going through the process of finding the right medication helped me to continue my education and find employment, but also have the energy and self-motivation to start living the life that I've always known I'm capable of. I grew up being the experiment child, also known as the eldest sibling, in an environment that wasn't helpful or healthy for someone with imbalanced brain chemistry. Being a shy, clueless preteen with crippling depression and anxiety, I did all that I could to feel safe, remain sane, and stay true to my innocent spirit by doing my best to stay strong and continue being kind to others despite my hardships. I know I owe my strength to God, who has been with me through it all, because I can't fathom how I would have gotten through the things I have and come out the way I have without him. I definitely would not be here today telling you my story and potentially helping billions of people if it weren't for his endless love. I found purpose in being a daughter of God. He reminded me often of my infinite worth. No one else understood me and my pain. Many people judged me for what they could never understand without going through everything I had endured. I was gossiped about, which definitely added to my state plummeting. Adults I had no choice but to look up to due to my lack of toxic understanding didn't help by giving their opinions of me, which couldn't be further from the truth. I was labeled many things, but amongst them was lazy, dumb, and things that suggested I'd never amount to anything. I wish I could describe the sorrow I felt for so many years. Internally, I felt like I was meant to become a very successful person who made her dreams come true by believing in herself. I held so much pain in not being able to even start becoming her because I felt trapped. It was dark in that mind cage, and sometimes I would catch a glimpse of light and what appeared to be a figure looking much like myself, holding the key, but not being able to reach far enough to give me that desperately desired freedom. I was so frustrated, like so frustrated. How did that make any sense? I believe I was smarter than I had the knowledge to understand. I didn't know what depression and anxiety was, or that it had a disease that could affect people physically, and definitely did for me. I didn't start getting help until I was about 19, 20 years old. Years of battling myself with undeserved torment could have been prevented if I had known about mental health and received professional help for it earlier. Now that I am older, I have to unlearn and relearn how to think and live in order to heal from past trauma. I would have much rather started at an earlier age so it wouldn't be as difficult as it is now being an adult. It isn't impossible for me, but it is definitely difficult. It isn't common for someone to have trauma associated to school and tests and learning in general, but I do, and just came to this realization. Looking back on everything I've experienced, both good and bad, I realize that we really need to be stepping up as a community and as people with more experiences, One of the most important places we learn is in school, at church, and within our family homes. I think it should be mandatory to learn about mental health. One of the ways we could achieve this is by introducing a mental health class. By introducing a mental health class in every school and by proposing offers to professionals in the psychology field to teach these classes. It could have some group therapy within the lessons as well. We also need to provide the therapist their own office for giving therapy when students are in need. To increase effectiveness, having a safe space, a quiet and somewhat dim room with pillows, blankets, candles, options for soothing music, and coloring books will help students feel safe and calm during a possible panic attack or sensory overload. To provide an individual, in the case of bullying, providing an escort, a teacher, to any of the desired rooms I just listed will help decrease these harmful possibilities. Unfortunately, because of the stigma surrounding mental health, some students won't seek the help they need. An effective and discreet way to help these individuals get in contact with resources would be to provide everyone with a list of nearby therapists and helplines. They can choose to keep this information or discard it. Another great way to subtly offer help is to have corkboards in school hallways with this information so that as they walk to their next class, they can take a quick glance. Having inspiring and uplifting quotes and posters will also help encourage others as well. As I close, I'd like to remind everyone to be happy and not perfect. Please love one another unconditionally and serve your fellow community. Thank you again for being with us here today.
Wow, Hannah, I just admire you so immensely. And you've given me personally so many ideas for Jobs for Michigan's graduates and some of the programming we offer in schools that we could use going forward to help young people. Thank you. And thanks for your willingness always to share your story. It's so powerful. Amari, what other resources do you think should be available at school to support students' mental well-being? I know this is tough because Hannah gave us a lot. Don't forget to unmute, Amari.
I'd have to say support groups within the school. I feel like they should actually let the students like come together with something like, you know, start off with a certain number of students that really have something for, you know, mental health. And I feel like they should all come together, you know, create something, make plans to even go out and do stuff in the community that's healing to like our bodies, our minds, you know, getting outside instead of staying on the phone all day and, you know, working all day. Everybody got different lives. So I really do feel like a support group thing will be good in a school.
Oh, absolutely. Great ideas, ladies. And I hope there are lots of educators listening in who are going to take some of these ideas and run with them. So many youth this year have been struggling with social isolation and virtual learning for over a year as a result of the pandemic. Chelsea, what do you think the long-term mental health effects of the pandemic will be on young people?
I definitely do think that it almost depends on your point of view on the pandemic. It depends on how you feel about it. You know, some people could have strong anxiety about it, you know, scared. Some people might not even care. Some people, you know, just feel the way that they feel about it. But I do think one thing that the pandemic itself has done to a lot of the kids that I know around me and, you know, just kids in my class in general is kind of taking away some of their social skills. I think my class almost as a whole, as I've grown up with them, kind of, quiet people, antisocial, like when you go to a restaurant, like they have, your mom order for you, like, they don't like to speak up a lot. There's a lot of kids like that. And I think that in this case, isolating kids inside and doing all that makes them feel more comfortable with being inside, and almost takes away some of their social skills even more. And while I am actually one of those people that genuinely don't like to speak out and speak up about anything, kind of quiet, um, while I am one of those people, I am trying my hardest to stop doing that. But it's quite a journey, and I've experienced myself that staying home has just made me want to isolate myself at home even more. So it's almost important for kids to start to remember, it's still okay to go out and do things. It's still okay to, live your life. I think that it's kind of sucked my generation kind of back into that hole of like staying in their little shell. And I think it's important to help kids kind of get out of that shell again, because I think we're all kind of stuck in it a little bit.
Well, first of all, I congratulate you and commend you on coming and speaking here today, because certainly that is not staying in your shell, and your words are so powerful and will impact so many other lives. So thank you. And then what you said about taking away some of our social skills, that resonated with me personally. I've observed it even in my small child, who pre-pandemic was really social and post-pandemic has struggled a little bit with socializing. So I think those words they're resonating for my life. Christian, what do you think? Has the pandemic impacted your mental health? And how do you think schools in general should respond?
So yes, the pandemic has impacted my mental health. I usually like being by myself a lot. So I've been by myself a lot, and I enjoy it, but I also enjoy going out to see people, and that has impacted me greatly. I think schools also should teach or have classes for people at an earlier age to talk about mental health. So then when we're already struggling, we already know what to do, what resources are available, and how to go about speaking up for ourselves.
Absolutely. I love all of these recommendations for school districts. Certainly school districts have a lot on their plates as well, and educators are doing their very best at this difficult time, but these are some great suggestions to incorporate into post-pandemic learning. All right, Christian, this is also to you. Do you feel more intentional social emotional learning should be provided in school as a way to positively impact mental health? You kind of started touching on that by saying, let's start a little earlier.
Yes, I think that it's easier to talk to people our own age.
Mm-hmm.
So having students talk to other students who are already struggling, to start like a support group, that would help schools and people a lot.
Thank you. Thank you, all four of you. That was just a phenomenal section. Dr. Todman, let's turn it over to you. You've done a lot of work around racial inequities, including mental health. Can you explain some of your work and your relationship to the conversation? Just make sure to unmute.
Lots of buttons to push this morning, sorry. So my work is focused on health equity, and by that I mean I work to eliminate differences in health among different groups of people, these differences that are unfair and avoidable. And we know that some differences are biological or genetic in origin, but many of the differences in health and some of the illnesses that people experience, including mental illness, are a function. They result from the environments that we live in. And a couple of you have alluded to an environment that has been toxic or not helpful to you. And it can impact things like whether you have enough money or not, impacts, whether you have enough food and transportation, housing, or if you live in a home or a neighborhood that's safe. All those things impact your health, including your mental health. Whether we're treated with dignity and respect and fairly, those things impact our mental health. And that's the work that I do. And certain groups, racial, ethnic groups, LGBT folks, people who have low wealth, experience life circumstances that actually can undermine their mental health. And that's the work that I spend most of my time doing. As I explained before the session started, I worked with psychologists in Chicago for about 10 years. And my work was really about helping them understand to ask a different kind of question, not what's wrong with you, but what has happened to you? What have you experienced in your life that has challenged your mental health? And how can we navigate those experiences to build resilience and to improve mental health? So that's essentially the work that I do. Let's see, I'm sorry, I'm switching. So I don't know if there are any questions about them. I'm more than happy to take them. But for the whole panel, what is the best way that we as adults and as community should communicate to young people the resources and support that are available to them? Hannah, we'll start with you, please.
Will you please repeat the question? I want to make sure I answer.
Yes, of course. So I'm going to ask the whole panel this question, and I'm starting with you, and I'm happy to move on to someone else if that's easier. But what is the best way that we as adults and a community should communicate to young people the resources and support that's available to them?
Yeah, so as I had said before, a great way would be to have cork boards like in restaurants or buildings with the information of therapists or helplines just pinned up to those things so that people can look at them. Maybe have like a tearaway thing where they can grab the number. Also, I really just feel like being open about talking about your own mental health will help others feel more comfortable talking about theirs.
Great, thank you. Thank you for that contribution, Hannah. Christian, any thoughts on that question? What can we as adults in a community do to support young people?
I think that just social media is a good way because a lot of people have it now. So having a community social media Facebook group or something like that where you can send positive messages to your community and have all the information posted in the group so you can just look it up and get the help that you need.
Thank you, Christian. Amari, how can we adults and as community communicate to young people the resources and support that's available to them?
Like he said before, I was really thinking of the Facebook groups. People tend to like those depending on what type of stuff you post in there, if they can relate to it or, something that might help them, like, daily affirmations or certain stuff like that. I really thought that was a big one.
Okay, thank you. And Chelsea, any thoughts on that question?
Yes. I think a big thing that a lot of people have kind of touched on is kind of normalizing that mental health is a thing and it's not something that's gonna, disappear, and it's real, and just normalizing the fact that it's gonna happen. And so when people start to experience it, they can kind of come out and talk about it so they can get help. And that kind of goes back to my initial statement, is that people are so scared to talk about this because, judgment, and it's not normal to them, and because people don't talk about it enough. So we have to start talking about it, and we have to, start putting up flyers, and we have to, start putting this on places where kids are going to see it, social media platforms, everywhere, so they can realize that what's happening to them isn't wrong. And it's not something that makes them crazy or something that makes them weird. It's just something that happens to some people, and there's a way to get help and they can get it.
Thank you. I will add one resource as the community resiliency model. And this provides all of us, youth and adults, with tangible tools that we can use to manage our central nervous system, which is, what gets kind of thrown out of whack when we're experiencing mental health issues. And I'm happy to put that resource in the chat. And then we actually offer that training at Lakeland, and it helps you learn how to use sight, your senses, touch, hearing, and those things to kind of calm yourself down in the moment when you're experiencing mental health challenges, something that we can all use. And as I said, I will put that resource in the chat for you. Is there a way to help young people feel more comfortable about asking for help, given the stigma, the uncertainty when you're first experiencing a mental health challenge? How do we help young people feel comfortable about saying, I need help? Anyone, please take that question.
Yeah, so definitely talking about our own personal struggles, being more open to talking about it, not making it like a taboo. And like as Chelsea had said, I thought it was really great just posting about it on social media. People are on there anyway, and not everything on there is good. So if we're more open to discussing mental health, then maybe other people feel more comfortable talking about it as well.
Thank you, Hannah. Amari, Kristen, Chelsea, any way that you can think of to help young people feel more comfortable to ask for help?
Kind of, yes. Like, as I said before, the social media thing, that's a great way, because like there are so many kids already using social media. Like every single kid has access to that. Well, I'm not gonna say every single kid, but many. And we all, like, even TikTok is a big platform with basically ran by teenagers. Like there's just pretty much all teenagers on that app. And even on there, even through all of the videos that I've seen of, kind of, hate and, rudeness, there are accounts on there of people in the mental health industry. And they talk about mental health, and they answer questions for kids. And there are some faces on that app that are resources for kids that do need help. So I think that, if there was a way to, get those accounts out there a lot more, and, send them to people, post them places, just spreading the word can do so much help if we just make this a thing, because it's a big deal, and it needs to be treated like a big deal, because there's kids out there that do need help and they're scared to reach out. And if they see somebody, an idol, that they have on TikTok or Instagram or whatever, that's talking about mental health, and they're like, it's cool to talk about it, like, let's talk about it, let's start this conversation, maybe they'll do it themselves.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to Christian, I see you're waiting to respond to that question. Please do.
So I personally use TikTok, and one thing I like about the app is that they send sometimes notifications about live videos to people, and a lot of the times I'll look and it will be a mental health, somebody talking about mental health, and I think that's great that they send that out. So just like any other apps that people use, those are all great.
Great, thank you. Anyone else want to contribute to that question of how to make young people feel comfortable asking for help? All talked out on that one?
I think something that would really help is writing children's books about mental health so that they can get accustomed to it at an early age and feel more comfortable talking about it with people. That's
a great idea. I've seen actually some of these that start, with yoga to calm yourself down, even as early as age 3. Well, thank you all for answering those questions.
And Hannah, might I suggest that you should be the first person from our network to go start writing those books, because you would be phenomenal at it.
Thank you.
Dr. Todman, one follow-up. You mentioned the community resiliency model, which is being offered by Spectrum Health Lakeland in the kind of Southwest Michigan, West Michigan region for those joining across the state. Is that a resource that's accessible anywhere?
Yeah, so the community resiliency model, I put a reference to it in the chat. That's a model that was developed, I believe, in California, and has been used through communities. It's an evidence-based program that's been used through communities throughout the nation. And it's we decided to embrace the model because it's a great way to help people manage the symptoms when we don't have a lot of professionally trained clinicians available. So people can self-manage their symptoms. And we've been working closely with the Krasl in our area museum to teach people the various skills that help calm ourselves down, our central nervous systems down. So yes, it's available nationwide. And if you just go to the link that I provided in the chat, you can find out more information and resources.
Oh, fantastic. I love how many resources are being shared throughout this. So this is great. And I now know that I need to be on TikTok. So made a little note on that as well. So we have some extra time and there are great questions from our audience for our panelists. We have a very eager group of individuals who are listening intently. So this one is from Bethany. The language young people use to describe their experiences change from generation to generation. For example, my children had to explain to me what salty meant. Do you think there's a language barrier between young people who may need help and the adults who may be able to help them? And then continuing, what effect do you think that has? So Amari, I'll turn it over to you unless you don't feel comfortable, because of course these are just kind of on the spot questions.
I believe I guess you're saying that the adults are trying to understand the way we now in our different terms and stuff.
Yeah, do you see have you observed that language barrier at all?
Actually, yeah, I have noticed it. I'm not really sure what to say on it because of the fact it's just a universal thing for the younger generation. We come up with these different words and stuff to describe certain things and it's just kind of there. So I can't really say too much on it.
That's okay. Does anybody have any experience specific to Bethany's questions that they want to share? No, it sounds like some other adults might need to join me on TikTok because that's where we might get some good supports, but also be able to connect. This question comes from Corey. Do you feel that people have to talk to listen to just hear you? Let's see. To listen to your feelings, or they are listening to try to fix you? I've learned from my experience that the stigma is that someone with mental health issues only need to be fixed. So I guess the question is around, do people need to try to actively fix someone who's experiencing challenges with mental health, or should they try to just be a listening ear? Sorry, Hannah or Chelsea, anybody who wants to take that one.
I'm gonna say it does kind of, depend on the person's situation. But I don't really think that they need to be fixed. I do think it's good to just have, a helping hand out there. Otherwise, if you come to them as a person that's trying to fix them, that probably most likely will make them feel uncomfortable about their problems, because then they're like, well, what's wrong with me? Is there something wrong with me if I need, fixed? People, they do need help with some things, but, coming to someone and, being like, okay, I'm here to fix you, like there's something wrong with them. It's not really that there's a problem that they're feeling this way. It's more of a thing that kind of just happens with people. So I think it's more of be there as a supporter. And if this person is in an area, a really dark area, that they need, professional help and stuff like that, that's kind of a different area to travel into. But if someone's really down and they need someone to talk to, you don't really have to be there to fix them. You just got to be there as a person that they can come to when they need it. So I think that's more of the important thing, like, because if you go to them as someone who is going to fix them, they may feel uncomfortable or make them feel even worse about how they're feeling because they're going to think that there's something wrong with them, which there isn't.
And it goes back to the original conversation around judgment and making judgments about people. Dr. Todman?
Yeah, I would just like to add to what Chelsea said about this whole notion of fixing people. Often it's the environment that they're in that needs to be fixed. And I think that, you know, we really need to shift the paradigm on the language we're using to talk about why people experience a mental health challenge. We don't look enough at, you know, what is their home situation like? What's happening at school? Are they facing racist or sexist or homophobic behavior every day that they're trying to negotiate and manage? And I hope that, you know, I see that we're beginning to, but I really hope we move past this narrative of trying to fix people and really fix the environments that they are in and that are predisposing them to this hurt and pain and discomfort.
And it seems, Dr. Todman, that the pandemic made what you're describing all too real for a wider array of people, right? Where they realized, hey, I hadn't been suffering previously from mental health, anxiety, et cetera. But now in the confinements of my home or when my environment changed, that experience changed.
That's exactly right. So really, it's not the individuals, it's the fact that we have this pandemic and we have these pretty stringent public health guidelines that we have to adhere to get the pandemic under control. That's where the problem lies, not with the individuals that are experiencing isolation, loneliness, anxiety, and depression.
And that's such a powerful example, I think, to shine light on what you're talking about that so many of us can relate to. I know I can personally as well. To some of our panelists, you've touched on this a bit, but when times are the toughest, what helps or would help you the most? What are some of those coping mechanisms that maybe you've put in place around things like music or watching a great movie? Yeah, Christian.
So music really helps me. Also talking to other people that are struggling with mental health, that also helps me whenever I'm feeling down or just taking a breath, closing my eyes, saying everything's okay. That really helps.
Thank you. Hannah?
Yes, journaling has helped me immensely too. Just being able to get your thoughts out on paper, so helpful.
Absolutely. Anybody else have anything they would share to this?
I'd like to say I like things like, you know, I do like music and, you know, writing stuff down. I love to paint and draw. That's like very therapeutic to me. I'd like to turn on a song and just sit there and paint, even if it's like random colors mixed together. It doesn't matter what it is. Just, you know, that really helps me. I also like going outside, you know, looking at the trees around my house. Where I live is definitely like an advantage for me because it's just so pretty. And there's a lot of nature, fields, trees, birds, you know, animals just running around. So that really helps me calm me down.
Thank you. Dr. Todman's mentioned a couple of times the idea of calming the nervous system, and it seems this creative outlet is such a powerful way to do that. All right, this is our last question, and I assume we have a number of adults, likely parents, who are out there wondering the same question from one of our audience members. What should adults do when young people resist the offer for help? And whoever most wants to comment on this first. Christian?
I think that they should give them some space, some time, and then after a couple days or after a while, just try again. Giving them the space really helps.
Space. Thank you. Who else has a comment? Mari?
I can say, yeah, the reassurance. Because yeah, it might take time for some people, and some people can generally feel like somebody else's spirit can tell, if they really want to know what's going on, or if they just trying to be there just to help them for just that moment. And I can really say that maybe they should keep reassuring them, letting them know that they gonna always be there. And it's up to that young person to make that choice to open up and be able to want to walk up to that person and be like, I'm ready to talk, I'm ready to get into this. So I can say reassurance.
No, thank you. Hannah or Chelsea, anything you want to add?
Just being there for them, loving them unconditionally, and building that trust with them, because they may unknowingly start talking about things without actually knowing it's a mental health issue.
Last but not least, Chelsea, anything you want to add?
I definitely agree with Amari, because it's like, if you sit there and you sit down with somebody and you offer them the help and they don't want it, you have to just give them their space, but also maybe do little things, little acts of kindness towards them, to let them know, like, you're not out to get them, you're not out to put them in a place that's going to hurt them, you're there to help, and you're there to get them help if that's what they need. So I think definitely reassuring them, letting them know that you are on their side and that you just want them to be helped and you just want them to feel happy. That can really help a person realize, oh, this person is suggesting this to me because they care about me. Maybe I should take this path.
Wow. Thank you so much to the four of you and to Dr. Todman. This concludes today's Coffee with a Purpose conversation. As always, our just deepest gratitude to you, Amari, Hannah, Chelsea, and Christian, for your candor and vulnerability. That is always true for our young panelists, but it's particularly true today because this is a powerful topic. You represent the very best of Jobs for Michigan's graduates, and we could not be more prouder of you or grateful to you. Dr. Todman, did you want to add?
I just want to add my thanks to you young people. I'm impressed with you, and keep going, keep having these conversations, putting it out there, and thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Youth Solutions is eager to partner with school districts and community-based organizations to foster belonging for youth and promote mental health. Of course, we've got lots of great ideas from today's panelists that we'll look to incorporate in future programming. If your school or organization is interested in exploring a partnership, please visit our website at youthsolutions.org. I'd also like to thank our event sponsors, Lions Industries, West Rock, the Michigan College Access Network, Vail Rubber Works, Operating Engineers 324, and TCF Bank for making it possible for us to inspire and connect youth to achieve a future beyond imagination. Sponsorship information can also be found on our website. And last but never least, thank you to our audience for your time, energy, and just tremendous interest in this topic. A list of statewide mental health resources provided by Spectrum Health and our panelists will be emailed to all attendees so we can all continue this important conversation around mental health at such a critical moment in history. Also, to improve future sessions, we'll be sending out a request for feedback via email, and we appreciate your input as we always try to improve these conversations. Now that summer is upon us, we're going to take a brief break from Coffee with a Purpose, and we'll return in early fall for our next conversation. Join us as we engage a panel of JMG youth in a conversation about non-traditional career pathways. A save the date for this engaging conversation will be out in just a few weeks. Stay safe, be healthy, have a wonderful Memorial Day holiday, And thank you all so much for joining for Coffee with a Purpose. Take care.